Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the UCF Knightcast. I'm your host, season ticket holder Phil Nunziata. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the Knights' dominating performance in Week 1 against the FIU Panthers. We will also discuss their game coming up next week against the Memphis Tigers, as well as some of the other things that happened throughout the nation in college football this week. UCF Knightcast starts right now. So the college football season's officially upon us, and the Knights have started 1-0 in, I don't think could have been any better fashion. I got my buddy Sean Kramer here, everyone's favorite Jags fan. He actually went to the game with me. He doesn't go to many, so I figured I'd bring him on to get, an opinion of someone else that just got to see everything. So Kramer, was that your second game ever, right?
Yes, that was my second game. My first one was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago against Tulsa.
They won, right?
Yeah,
UCF
won.
Okay, so that would have been 2014, I believe.
Yeah.
So, obviously, that was still in, the George O'Leary era, and now we're in the Scott Frost era. Did you notice anything different, just, going, then and now? Did you really see much of a difference, even the tailgate?
Well, no, the tailgate was about the same. It was still good. A lot of people came out, and, it was a good time. As far as the difference in the team goes, the offense looked a whole lot better from the first time I saw him play 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me is, in this game I expected, because we played FIU last year, and the name of that game was run the ball with everyone you can, over everyone you can. I think we had over 300 yards rushing.
Wow.
So I expected that to be, the name of the game, but Mackenzie Milton comes out firing, and, I haven't seen him push the ball deep. The first two possessions, 2 deep touchdowns. You have one to the tight end, Jordan Akins, which, of course, in the first podcast I did, it was what I said. I wanted him to be more in the pass game. He's a grown man. This dude, he went out of high school into minor league baseball and then went to college. So he's like a 28, 27-year-old guy. He's a grown man, and they need to treat him as such, and they need to throw him the ball more. And that's what happened on that first drive.
Yeah, he definitely looked like a man among boys out there playing.
I think, it was really, and not only after that happened, the 2-point conversion, they jumped right into it. Our punter throws a 2-point conversion pass to the second-string tight end, Jordan Franks, who's also very good in his own right. So right off the bat, you get, 2 quick plays, you're up 8-0 before the Panthers know what happened. Things are going good. And then the Panthers find a way to strike back, long, deep touchdown, 75-yard pass down the sideline. Chris Johnston, the defensive back, a 50-year senior, guy's been around forever, just falls down. I mean, you hate to see that because he had decent coverage and then he fell. The guy made the catch. I mean, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah.
But at that one moment, I think everybody thought, okay, this might actually be a game. They might actually hang around for a little bit. And, the next drive, Mackenzie Milton comes out firing again, this time a 50-yard touchdown to Traquan Smith. And, he was just on an island by himself.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Watching this game, the most impressive thing to me about this game was the quarterback play by Milton.
Yeah, he, last year he didn't have the ability to push the ball downfield. I think that's it was every pass was within 10 yards a lot of the time. It was a lot of dink and dunk. He had a few deep passes that were wide open. There was a guy there contesting this pass. He put it right where it needed to be. He led him, which is something he hasn't been able to do last year. If this is the Mackenzie Milton we're going to get all year, he had a career day, 360 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, but it was tipped, so I don't really hold that against him. And we got to keep in mind, this is 2 quarters and a drive or two, because by the time we sat down in our seats for after halftime, I'm pretty sure the backups were in at that point.
Yeah. Watching this game, last year I didn't watch any UCF at all, and this is the first time I've seen this Mackenzie Milton guy. So watching him, like you said last year, he really didn't do much, but from what I saw this year, it sounds like he made huge improvements because his throws were impressive. These look like NFL-style throws from what I was seeing.
I mean, the full story with him is he was a true freshman. He was going to redshirt. We had too many injuries at quarterback that he ended up playing. So he was not somebody that should have played. He looked like a freshman that wasn't meant to play. He had good moments, mostly with his feet, because he is very elusive. He's very Johnny Manziel-esque in his play style, if I could say that. I mean, that's someone you watch play a lot.
Yeah.
So definitely someone you can compare his style to. Definitely more disciplined, definitely more coachable. But, if I had to compare him to somebody, in recent memory, that is honestly who I think about.
Yeah. I think with this guy, if Scott Frost keeps him on the pace that he's going, he'll definitely be an NFL-style quarterback. Now, I know the sample size is just against FIU, but the throws that he makes, if he can lead the receivers, hit them in stride, then you guys have the making for a very good quarterback, probably your next Blake Bortles.
Yeah, and he has the ability. His running game is second to none, though. His ability to scramble and escape. Even last year, he had plenty of situations where he, got out of trouble pretty quickly with his feet. So this is a game. It's funny. We're really only going to talk about a half of football. I mean, we'll get in a little bit about what the backups did.
Yeah.
But the other main thing I wanted to talk about is this game. In the month or so leading up to it, it was like last year going to be the first Frost. The first game of the year is a whiteout game. Everybody wears white. We did, and the players wear white. And that was going to be the situation until about a week before. It came out that I guess the way this works is if you're going to wear white at home, the other team has to agree to wear their home jerseys, essentially the darker color jerseys that they have, for you to wear white. And I guess FIU's new coach, Butch Davis, didn't sign off on that. And I mean, how bitter do you have to be to not let a team wear what they want to wear at home? That seems a little ridiculous to me. Come on, Butch.
Yeah, it sounds kind of petty, I suppose. I mean, it was a 6 o'clock game, so they weren't playing at noon. So you don't have to really worry that much about the heat. So I guess he just wanted to be a party pooper, I suppose.
Every party needs a pooper. That's why we invited Butch Davis. But anyway, yeah, if it was at noon, like you said, that's different because, teams like to get away with that, especially in Florida, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed very interesting to me that was even an issue. And, UCF, they took it in stride. They wore the white helmets. And then the fans still wore white, so it still came off pretty good.
Yeah.
It was just funny because the field was painted with all the white outlines, and it was meant to be there, and everyone wore white but the players. But
not much you can do about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean they could wear pink if they're going to put 61 points on people. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah.
One of the biggest storylines that did happen later in this game, I talked about it in the last episode. Recent cornerback transfer, Mike Hughes. I'm sorry. Mike Hughes or Matt Hughes? He hasn't been here long enough for me to know. Let me double check here.
Well, speaking of corners, number 20, Moore. Was it Brandon Moore?
Yeah.
He needs some work. From what I saw, you guys left him out on an island early, and I think that's how FIU scored their first touchdown.
Well, that was on Chris Johnson.
Oh, Chris Johnson.
Yeah, but yes, we have very young corners in general.
Yeah.
So I think that will be the one bugaboo of this team.
Yeah.
And Mike, it is Mike Hughes. I'm sorry, I said Matt Hughes. I'm thinking of the UFC fighter. So yeah, Mike Hughes. He's been on campus for about an hour. I don't think he has his schedule to go to classes yet, but he transferred, former junior college national champion, spent 1 year at the UNC Tar Heels, and he's now at Knight. They threw him in at punt return, which to me was a safe bet because it's just you catching the ball and making your blocks. You don't really need the chemistry to make that happen. He had a lot of good returns. And then after Chris Johnson gave up that touchdown, he got thrown in there. Only had 2 tackles on the score sheet, but that didn't really tell the tale of the performance he played because as the game went on, the defense really tightened up on those passes, and I think that had a lot to do with him being in the game. He was very good in coverage.
Yeah, no, you guys pretty much shut FIU down for the majority of the first half and into the second half, really.
Yeah, I believe this. Yeah, they ended up with 17 points, so they scored another 10 with the backups in.
Yeah.
But the defense definitely stepped up later on. Really, that you can almost take away that one touchdown because again, someone just falls down. That's going to happen. You don't want it to happen, but you don't really count that as a blown assignment. You just got to keep your feet. And what ended up happening there is they pulled Chris Johnson, and Hughes ended up playing the rest of the game. And it's also come out, and we'll talk about this when we get to the Memphis game, because there's a lot to talk about with that. He's actually going to be starting. So in his second game on campus, again, he's been here for about an hour, and he's already starting. So if we can get more from Mike Hughes, that'd be good. That'd definitely something we'd all appreciate.
Yeah.
couple other standout performances here. I said also in my preview of this game that I wanted Dredrick Snelson to be the guy that steps up in the absence of Tristan Payton while he serves his 6-game suspension. And he did. He had 4 catches for 98 yards, which led all Knights in receiving. He had a 61-yard pass down the sideline, almost scores on it. He was wide open. It was a busted coverage. He had to basically sit down on the route, which is sometimes hard to do when you're that far downfield. It's easier to hit a guy in stride than throw it right on the button. But he was able to haul that in. 61 of his yards came on one pass. Cam Stewart had a 60-yard pass as well. The theme of the game is just the way they were able to push the ball down the field really blew my mind.
Yeah, it was impressive. I mean, granted, you are playing FIU.
Yes, that definitely should be noted. This is all against FIU, so this isn't Florida. This isn't anybody else, but it's they've beaten us in the past. It is a bit of a rivalry, so you still take it with pride. But yes, it is against what I think we can all agree is a lower opponent.
But with that being said, though, at least you guys you did do what you had to do, put up 61 against FIU. So you didn't underperform, you didn't overperform. I think you did exactly what you needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, if we beat them 24-17, then that's some issues there. But yeah, no, 61-17, and it easily could have been more because, as we said,
you took your foot off the gas.
Definitely.
Late on.
And the other person I wanted to bring up here, and because we had a lot of freshman receivers, I didn't know which ones were going to play, which ones weren't. Same thing with running backs. We'll get to them in a second. But Gabriel Davis stepped in. He's a true freshman. 6'3", 215 pounds, had 4 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. He wears number 3 in your 13 in the program, and which I'm very happy about because I still have Justin Holman's jersey, so now I have number 13 that I can watch there. But he definitely stepped up. He ran his routes crisp. He didn't. His touchdown was in the red zone. He didn't have a lot of yards after catch, but he did seem to run his routes correctly and make the catches. I don't think he had a drop in his target. So that's good when a freshman can come out and make those moves. It's definitely good signs for things to come.
Yeah.
And we did have a few running backs get in the game later on. Cordell Richardson played a little bit. Adrian Killings had spot duty. He also had the kick returns, of course. Taj McGowan got in for a touchdown, and if Taj McGowan scores on you, you might as well go home.
Yeah.
And speaking about just, getting up and going home, I think the minute that FIU spirit really got broken this game was they finally get a stop on us, and, Loudermilk, our new punter, pins them deep, and they get the safety, right after that. And I think at that point, we all knew where this is going. So good on you by the defense, and especially by Mac Loudermilk, whose name is just fun to say. I want to talk about our punter Loudermilk as much as possible through these podcasts.
Yeah, I think Loudermilk is the unsung hero of that safety.
Yeah, and not only that, he threw the 2-point conversion pass, so he had himself a day.
Yeah,
he pinned him inside the 4 really, because when he handed the ball off, he's in the backfield, so you got to be at the 2 or 3 yard line for that to happen.
Oh yes.
So needless to say, the Knights are looking pretty good heading into their next game next week, which will actually be our conference opener. We're playing the Memphis Tigers. Who did win last week, but in significantly less impressive fashion. They played Louisiana Monroe. They beat them 37-29. Apparently, they had a lot of injuries. That game was funny. We went to Burger U after the game, and that game was on immediately after. So we actually saw a little bit of it. Really, it was they had one running back rush for 169 yards and another rush for 131 yards. So they ran all over Monroe. Their quarterback, Ferguson, only threw for 97 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. So clearly this is a team that you're going to have to watch the run game on, and hopefully we're able to do it. Originally, we were going to be the underdogs in this game, according to ESPN, and as of now, as of the time of recording, the Knights are now at 2.5-point favorites after their dominating performance against the Panthers. Another thing about this game that's become official about an hour ago, the game will no longer be played on Saturday. It's going to be played on Friday at 6:30. Lots open at 5. There will be no tailgating for this game, which definitely sucks. It sucks for me even more because I'm not able to go now after work. But so that will be that game, and obviously time has been changed due to the hurricane issues that'll hit us this weekend, hit parts of us anyway. So if you're in the areas that are going to be more affected than ours, It sucks. I feel like every week we're talking about hurricanes now after the one in Texas and now. But, anyone that's out there that's going to be affected by it, be safe, do what you got to do, stock up on supplies, and hopefully you'll have time to watch the Knights wherever you end up. So I think now we're just going to talk a little about just college football's opening weekend as a whole. Overall, I think we had a lot of exciting games. I like that they're moving more towards, for a lot of teams, you have those cupcake games early in the year. And there's at least now a big handful of games with ranked teams playing each other and just good matchups. I'm glad they moved away from everyone playing a cupcake at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it definitely gets you a whole lot more excited for the start of college football season when you have the big teams play each other early on, especially in these kickoff games that they do.
Yeah, the kickoff classic's definitely been a good idea, especially like in this particular year with UCF playing on Thursday. I had all Saturday to watch games, and I'm glad there was actual games worth watching. I mean, like I follow Penn State, and they crushed Akron, so like I still watch those cupcake games if it's the team that I like, and that game was never close at any point. But there was plenty of other great ones. Let's see where to start here. I think the first game of the year was Ohio State and Indiana, and if you look at this score, 49-21, Ohio State beats Indiana in Indiana, but it wasn't great the whole way. Indiana really had a shot at the beginning of this.
Indiana was leading by halftime, weren't they?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, it was definitely... And I understand, these are kids that don't get preseason games like the NFL players, so you're going to be a little sloppy, you're going to be a little rusty. I think I said in your podcast when we talked about things like this, I think if anyone needs a preseason, it is the college kids. It's not the 30-year-old professionals.
Yeah, it's tough, though, because, I mean, you have these kids out here, they play significantly less than the pros do, but I don't know, I guess maybe it's a money thing, because those schools have to pay out of pocket to run those scrimmage games if they were to have them, I guess.
Right. And, I mean, every college team has their spring game, which they just play each other.
Yeah.
I wish there's a kind of a happy medium where you play like a spring game against another school, if that was ever possible.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that we don't have that leads to things like this, where a team of a much lesser caliber definitely has a chance to step in there, and they did for a good while.
Yeah, I feel like that happens basically with like all teams, really.
Mm-hmm.
The first game is always, usually it'll probably be your sloppiest until things get going, the defense comes around, the offense gets in rhythm. So it's stuff like this is bound to happen. But Ohio State, who's the obvious better team, pulled away late in the second half as they started to rout Indiana 49-21.
Right. And so I mean, I think even a team as good as Ohio State, you get about a half to work stuff out, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happened. They came out after halftime and they were jumping right back into this. Yeah. Let's see, another big one that happened. We had Texas fall to Maryland, 51-41. This was a track meet here.
Yeah.
And Texas, they were ranked 23 generously, in my opinion, that they were ranked coming into the year. They lose at home to Maryland. Texas is like...
I feel like Texas has been, like, overhyped a little bit just because they are Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been on a downward spiral for a long time, and I feel like they're just kind of reaching just to get Texas back into, like, the prominence again.
I feel like you have this problem with Notre Dame, you have this problem with USC. Sometimes, they live up to the bill, but there's been a lot of times in recent years where that's just not the case.
Yeah, no, it definitely happens a lot. Texas falls into that realm. It's not 2009 anymore. Colt McCoy's not there.
Vince Young's not there.
Yeah, their coach, I'm forgetting his name, isn't there anymore. He's gone. So.
Yeah. So, and speaking of coaches, actually, segues are good. Tom Herman, former coach of Houston. This was his first game coaching Texas. Not a good start for him, of course. Now.
Yeah.
And Texas again. If they weren't ranked going into the year, this probably wouldn't even be a talking point. It'd just be a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the fact that they were, and like you said, they fall in that realm that Notre Dame will fall into. I mean, Notre Dame won 4 games last year, and I'm pretty sure if they're not ranked, they're near it right now.
Yeah.
So things like that, they kind of irk me sometimes. And while we're on the topic of those kind of teams, we did have USC play Western Michigan, and Western Michigan was giving them some fits at some point. They did eventually win 49-31, but Sam Darnold, the heir apparent next number one overall pick, he didn't look so hot.
No, he didn't. And I know there was a lot of preseason hype for him coming in this year. He's a Heisman favorite, and a potential number one pick if he goes in the draft. And it wasn't a good showing for him. His first game of the year. Who knows? Maybe next week he turns it on. But USC didn't look that impressive this week.
No, I mean they did what they needed to do to win. I mean they had a running back that rushed for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. Another running back rushed for 2 more touchdowns. They got it done on the ground, which is really what they needed to do. I was trying to find Darnold's stat line. 23 of 33, so not terrible completions. 289 yards, not bad on the yards. His QBR was 71, which is, in technical terms, meh. But the real issue here is no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. You're not going to win a whole lot of games with that sort of stat line.
Yeah, that's not pretty at all.
No, I mean you can throw for the yards, and obviously they capped off a lot of these drives with rushing touchdowns. So there's that. So you can kind of skew it a little bit. That at least he's leading them down the field, and they have the ability to score.
Yeah.
But to throw 2 picks, no touchdowns, and to throw for that many yards, though, it's definitely a problem.
Yeah. I feel like the first real major kickoff classic game this year was Michigan and Florida, and Michigan won 33-17.
But it wasn't that close.
It was not that close at all. The only reason Florida was even in this game was because Michigan threw 2 pick sixes, whoever their quarterback was.
Yeah, we actually UCF played them last year, so I'm somewhat familiar with the team. Yeah. Spates is his last name, I believe.
Okay.
Like the NBA player Maurice Spates.
Yeah.
No relation, I don't think. But yeah, no, I was by the pool watching this game, not to brag, but every time I got up, I saw that other pick six, and I'm like, Michigan, if you find a way to blow this game, I swear to God. I
expect better from a Jim Harbaugh coached quarterback, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the defense was all Harbaugh. They bullied this team.
Yeah.
They really did. I believe, Florida, if they didn't score an offensive touchdown.
They only scored 3 points on offense.
3 points on offense, and Michigan.
They dominated.
Michigan scored They scored more points on defense, because they got that fumble recovery in the end zone to kind of seal it. So they just about scored more points on on defense than Florida did on offense.
Yeah.
And if you need a stat to really show you how this game went down, Florida had a total of 11 yards rushing.
Wow.
For a grand total of 0.4 yards per carry.
Wow.
So that's where they were in that situation. A team that, and on the flip side, Michigan had 215 yards rushing. Yeah. So, yeah, no, this was a sloppy game.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I think it's Florida is considered, which I don't agree with, still one of the SEC powerhouses. And they're really not. They're not. They win the East almost every year now, but that side of the
joke.
That side of the SEC is just so depleted.
Yeah, the SEC East is nowhere near what it used to be.
I don't think the SEC is what it used to be.
No, I mean the SEC they got their big teams where Alabama plays and stuff like that, but the other side, the fact that Florida wins the East every single year and
at 8-4.
Yeah, I mean, come on, the SEC, it's a joke.
I think you got Alabama. You take a few steps down. You got LSU, and then you got everybody else. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about that. Let's see what else we got here. We're just scaling through games at this point.
Yeah.
Let's see. LSU, since I brought them up, they played in one of these kickoff classic games. They played BYU, 27-0. That's how you take care of a team like that. Let's see. Is there any more before we get to the big one? Well, we'll get to the big one. We'll just kind of do these in order. So really, the big matchup was Florida State and Alabama, and this game was gearing up to be a classic for about a half.
It was. I'm a little bit more of a Florida State fan when I watch college football, so I was excited for this game. And this game in the first half went exactly how I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, everything just kind of fell apart for Florida State.
I mean, they had, I feel like, some chances to put some points up in the first half. The fact they went right down the field and scored, I think, says a lot about that team.
Yeah.
There was a lot of field goal miscues. Really,
it was all special teams.
Alabama special teams won this football game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and really, the game at this point is. We talked about how Florida and Michigan score. It wasn't that close.
Yeah.
This game wasn't as wide of a margin as the score suggests.
No, I'll say this. You see that the final score is 24-7. The Florida State defense played a whole lot better than that.
Yeah.
Because realistically, they only gave up 13 legit points because Alabama got 11 points off of getting a short field from blocked punts and picks and stuff like that.
Right. And the thing about that is, like, if you told me Florida State holds Bama to 24, is there a chance they can win? I'd say yes. Not guarantee, but I could see them winning 30-24, 31-24.
And the real undoing of the game, though, was Francois throwing 2 picks
back-to-back
in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, he goes down and gets hurt with a knee injury. Now he's out for the year.
Yeah, I was about to get to that. That's really the big news on this. I mean, where does that leave? It's terrible to see that happened with about 2 minutes left in the game. They were really just playing for pride at that point, and it wasn't a dirty thing on Alabama. I'm not trying to insinuate that. He rolled up on him.
Yeah,
it just happens, and you could tell immediately.
Yeah,
he did not move. When he finally stood up, he put no weight on his leg.
Yeah.
So from everyone over here at the Knightcast, Francois, DeAndre Francois, we wish you the best and that you come back hell as a blazing next year. But where does that leave Florida State this year? I mean, their quarterback situation is not that great behind him.
No, it's they have 2 guys. One guy who I think is a junior, J.J. Constantino.
Yeah, he played a little bit sparingly in the past couple of years, but nothing to write home about.
And then now they have this. I think he's a redshirt freshman or sophomore. I can't remember. This other dude is
first time playing.
Yeah, his name is Blackman or whatever, and he came over. He's going to start immediately over the Constantino dude.
Yeah.
So I guess Constantino's not that good, from what I can assume, if this freshman comes in right over him.
Mm-hmm.
But the defense, I think, has a chance to be like one of the best in college football. As far as the offense goes, they're going to struggle bad. So
I mean, if you got to give them they have running backs. They have talented running backs. They have talented receivers. It's really just a matter of this team isn't quite good enough to just plug in any quarterback and go the way like LSU is perfected because everyone around their quarterback situation has been garbage for years. LSU, and it really it's almost laughable how they just put in anybody and they are decent at worst.
Yeah.
So Florida State's not quite on that level yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you? 8-win team, 9-win team?
I would say about 9 wins. That defense is going to keep them in every single game.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, other than Clemson, I don't know how good some of the other teams on their schedule is. They're going to blow the doors off of some team. There's not many other than Clemson maybe that's going to do that to them with that defense.
Yeah, I see them. They'll probably lose to Clemson. In 2 weeks they play Miami. They're probably going to lose that game now.
That'll be interesting. I mean, we don't know what Miami is. Miami played Bethune-Cookman this week. I can't really look into any sort of stock on that.
No, I know it's tough. But from what I heard and going into this, from this offseason into the regular season, Miami is supposed to have a much better team than years past.
I feel like we've been hearing about that for a while, but I mean, maybe it'll actually happen this time.
Yeah, we'll see.
So we got 2 more quick games to get to here. This one happened on Sunday. We had Virginia Tech and West Virginia. 21 versus number 22. Virginia Tech got the win on that. That was a pretty exciting game.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff you want to see.
Yeah.
And then the last game to wrap up what was a great weekend was actually on Monday on Labor Day. Tennessee edges Georgia Tech in second overtime, 42-41. This game was a lot. This was similar to, and we skipped this on accident, the UCLA game that they played. That one looked like it was a lost cause against Texas A&M.
Well, that was a 44-10.
44-10, yeah. And
UCLA came back.
Yeah, Josh Rosen did his magic. He a la Dan Marino, and the fake spike, and that was crazy. College football needs games like that to keep it interesting,
Yeah, Texas A&M, they outdid Atlanta Falcons, blowing a 35-point lead now.
Right. They said we blew a 28-3 lead, and Texas A&M said, "Hold my beer, watch this."
Yep.
So we're going to get out of here on just talking about a couple of games that we're looking forward to next week. But there's one piece of news that I just feel needs to be talked about, and it's considered the greatest upset in the history of college football, strictly from a betting standpoint. because neither of these teams were ranked. But Howard College defeated UNLV Running Rebels this past weekend, and it was the biggest point spread for an underdog to win. It was a 45-point favorite by UNLV, and Howard got the win, led by none other than Cam Newton's younger brother.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. It needed to be mentioned.
Yeah.
This is the kind of things that movies are made about, honestly.
Yeah.
So, no, just kudos to Howard College and UNLV. Just, I don't know, figure it out.
This is how much of an upset this was and how big the point spread was. If you bet $1 on Howard, you made $5,000.
Sucks we didn't do that.
Yeah.
We could update our equipment a good amount if we did that.
Yeah.
So yeah, good on you, Howard, and yeah, stuff like that. You always hear about things like that almost happening. That's right up there. Honestly, though, it is up there with like Appalachian State and Michigan.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. This was more of an upset from a betting standpoint than that was.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
Howard, they're like what, a Division II or III school?
They're in the what is it, like Bethune-Cook, the SWAC, the Southeast Athletic Conference. They're with all the historically black colleges like Bethune-Cookman and FAMU.
Okay.
They're in that conference.
All right.
But yeah, so good on them. And real quick before we get out of here, we're just going to talk about a few of the games that we're looking forward to next week. We mentioned Florida State and what they have going on. They're going to play Louisiana Monroe, which of course should be an easy game. They're favored by 33.5 points. But we'll at least get to see what we're working with quarterbacks there, so that's something to at least keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's definitely a good ease-in game for the quarterback Blackman to go into before Miami.
And we have the blind leading the blind here. We got number 21 USF playing UConn, and USF has not looked good in either of the games they played. No. They took Stony Brook into the fourth quarter tied, and I'm not kidding.
Good for Stony Brook.
Yeah, and UConn played, I'm trying to remember now, but they had a similar situation against a team that shouldn't have been on their level.
Yeah.
But to get into the actual good games, you have Auburn and Clemson. I mean, I think Clemson wins this one still. They don't seem to be missing a beat with this new quarterback they have. They're only favored by 4.5. I think that's fair, though.
Yeah, the game's in Clemson, so it's going to be a tough place for Auburn to go win.
Yeah. And I think the other two main ones we have here, we got Georgia and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's favored by 4.5, and there's no way I don't go with Georgia here. I mean, Notre Dame hasn't won a big game since I've been born, I don't think.
Yeah. Going back to, from a betting standpoint, like I would totally take Georgia and bet some money on this game if I was a betting guy.
Covering the spread, too? 4.5?
I got Georgia winning.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so
because Notre Dame is favored by 4.5.
Right.
I mean,
all they gotta do is win. Yeah.
I mean, what has Notre Dame done to deserve to be ranked?
No, they were a 4-win team last year.
Yeah, why are they ranked? That's what I want to know. They don't have their quarterback. He went to the Browns.
Yeah, so good luck with that.
That's a head scratcher for me on Notre Dame.
Florida found somebody they can beat up on with Northern Colorado, so if you're a Gator fan, you can enjoy that one.
Yeah.
What's got to be, this is the Saturday night game. We got number 2 number 2 Ohio State and number 5 Oklahoma. And OSU is favored by 7.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
Kind of. I feel like Oklahoma's not as good as you would expect a 5th-ranked Oklahoma team to be.
Yeah.
I think it's just the thing that, Ohio State has, what's his name, the coach?
Oh, Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. Ohio State's always locked in. They're always, a top college football team contending for the national championship. So I suppose being in Ohio State at the shoehorn, whatever that thing's called.
The horseshoe.
Horseshoe. Horseshoe. I would say 7 points is fair.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State's a good team, and Urban Meyer is a good coach. He's just such a though. Like, it's really hard to cheer for Urban Meyer, for me personally.
No, I don't cheer for Ohio State at all. I don't like Urban Meyer, but I mean, he has T.J. Barrett. That dude, I feel like he's been there for like a decade.
I know.
Like, when is that guy going to leave? When does he graduate?
That reminds me, while we're talking about Urban Meyer, back to his old Florida teams. They had a running back named Chris Rainey, who I believe has spent some time in the NFL since. but I could have sworn he was on Florida when I was in 8th grade and was still there my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
I think he had a bunch of medical red shirts or something, but I feel like that guy was literally there for 6 years.
Somehow Urban Meyer has the ability to keep players there for at least 6 years minimum.
I feel like they just don't notice or they just let him get away with it. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
And then the last big game we have here, we have USC and Stanford. I don't see a line on this. I don't know if that means it's a push or they just haven't decided yet. But who you got in this one?
In this game, I got USC. The game's in USC. Stanford, they're ranked 14th. I don't know a whole lot about the Stanford team.
Right.
USC, you would think should win, especially with all the hype that they've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Darnold, this is gonna be another tough game for him. From what I'm seeing at my standpoint here, USC is favored by 6.5.
Okay.
That's kind of big. I feel like it should probably be more of a field goal.
USC is favored, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually looking at the ESPN has this like match predictor setting,
Mm-hmm.
and Stanford has the edge 60% and then 60-40. Stanford it says here, which that's I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever favor Stanford.
Yeah.
But that is where we are right now. So anyway, that's what we got to look forward to for next week. Hopefully UCF gets it done against Memphis on Friday night before all the hurricane madness, and hopefully everyone enjoys the rest of the games. Let me know what you guys think about us just covering college football as a whole at the end of these episodes. I feel like it helps make the episodes a little longer. I do kind of want to push for these episodes to be a little longer. So let me know if you're cool with that, or if I should just stick to UCF anyway. And any other thoughts you have, let me know. Just leave comments. Let me know. And other than that, we'll see you next time. Everyone enjoy college football next week. And anyone that is affected by the hurricanes, like we probably will be safe. Do what you got to do. Stock up on supplies. Everyone be safe so we can enjoy college football next week. I'm Phil. He's Sean. We'll see you next week, and go Knights.